So now you've done your planning, you know how many access points you're looking at, and maybe some ideas of where they could be if you could input into the tool you were using enough information about the location. Now it's time to go on site and do a real site survey with a site survey mapping tool. We call that mapping tool because, again, you input the map into the tool and then you walk the floor. And as you walk the floor, you're going to either detect what is there or you're going to position an access point somewhere. And then you're going to move around this access point to determine the location of that access point and its coverage area. And then you're going to move that AP or add another access point, add it to the first one, and slowly build your coverage of the entire floor. So there are a few tools that allow you to do that. The two more famous that are mostly used in the industry are Ekahau Site Survey and also Fluke Air Magnet Site Survey. These two tools have an entire suite of possibilities to help you do that site survey. We've seen the Ekahau possibilities for planning. Ekahau, as I showed you at the beginning, is also used heavily for the active site survey. Let's go back to that screen so we can have a closer look. To use Ekahau Site Survey efficiently, you need to have a good card, because that card is going to be the one detecting whatever RF signal there is out there, and you're going to use that signal to determine the coverage of your access points. So the tool needs to know exactly what that card is seeing. So Ekahau, they manufactured a specific card that you can use for your site survey. So let me plug it in and open a site survey. So I'm back here on the project we did, and this is a real site survey again in this location I was telling you about. And what you can see in green is the step we walked. So what we did is that we imported a map, and then we actually hide everything so you don't have to see everything yet, and then we'll put it back. So we all start with a map that we load into the tool, and then everything depends on what type of site survey you're going to do. If you're doing a site survey that is a passive survey like we did here, then what you want to do is to assess the existing network. So you're going to walk the entire facility. And every time you walk a few steps, you're going to click on the map where you are. So if I walk this corridor, I'm going to stop at some point, click here saying, I'm here. Then I'll continue walking, then we'll get at some point here, for example, I'm going to click again, now I'm here. So that will allow the tool to know where I am walking around and what path I'm taking. And every time I click and in between clicks, the tool is going to detect the RF environment, and then it's going to understand what type of environment I'm looking out around. So this takes some CPU power, and you may be hearing my fan in the background, by the way. But the result is that at the end, this, which is the entire list of points we clicked as we walked around. Every green dot is one point we clicked, and of course in between are the path we took between these dots. Of course you have to click often that it makes sense that you're not crossing a wall or something. So that's the entire location that's been walked around, so we have a view of the network. And then of course I'm going to show you in a second, the tool is going to display all the access points that were detected. The other way to do a site survey is to do an active site survey, which means that you're going to position an access point and then you're going to walk around pretty much the same way as we do for a passive site survey, but you won't go that far because what you try to estimate is what kind of coverage you want to have for that access point. So you'll be walking around the access point just to estimate the range at which you get what kind of signal. And then the tool is going to display the same result pretty much, but only for one specific access point. For example, this one. So this is where the access point is likely to be, and this is where we walked around to estimate the coverage of that access point. And you see that we have thresholds we can set on that scale, which tell you where you have above whatever threshold you're deciding and where you have below that threshold. So when you design a network for a specific application with certain cutoff for the signal, you can precisely see where that signal is going to stop. Of course, you would do it for this access point, you would save your project, then take the AP, move it around, then do it again for the next AP, and you would accumulate the access points one after the other. So in the end, you would see the coverage for all the access points pretty much as if they had been deployed and you were doing a passive site survey on the resulting coverage. And that's how you get this result. And that's pretty much how you get this result. So you see here, we have all our access points with their name, their channel, and you can see the result on 2.4 or 5 gigahertz. And this would have been a passive site survey done with an existing network, or it could have been an active site survey where I have maybe 1 or 2 or 3 access points that I move around. I decide the coverage of the first one, measure it, then take this AP, move it somewhere else, do the coverage again for that one, save it on top of the first one, and continue across the floor, saving site surveys after site surveys and merging all them together to get the final coverage. It's only in fact when you see the walking path that you know if this has been a multiple one active survey per access point, or if you had an existing already deployed network on which you did a passive site survey. In my case, as you saw, it was a passive survey and I walked the entire floor. But you see, the process between a site survey that is active and one that is passive is not very different. For an active site survey, you just do one AP at a time, whereas for the passive site survey, AP is already there, so you walk the entire floor and detect the result. Active site survey, you would merge each AP on top of the other. Passive, you just have one flow.